Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Friday, August 21st, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Death Angel Shadow lurking around Neutral Good Books. Welcome to you both to the show. Today we are going... Well, it's Building Adventures Friday, right? So we got to do some adventure building stuff. My buddy Mark Meyer got a kick out of my Till Tuesday joke. Amy Mann is featured in a video, a Rush video, Time Stands Still. And of course she is the original lead singer and founder of Till Tuesday vocal group, and then a rock group from the 90s, I guess, really, yeah. Late 80s? 80s, really. Till Tuesday. Voices Carry, big hit for them. And I'll tell you, talk about 40 years in the making since that song about relationship abuse, about partner abuse in a relationship. And she must be somewhat disappointed at how much longer it took for a song like that to stick. For things like a few years back, finally, progress is progress. It's nice if it moves a little more swiftly. Doesn't always, right? Anyway, that was just a thing I shared on Facebook. Today is Building Adventures Day because it's Friday. And I thought we would, since we've been on a DMG, first edition DMG tear lately, I thought we'd have a peek at that first appendix, Appendix A, the random dungeon generator. I'll tell you, my review of this, my feelings about this have been hit and miss. Good morning, Dweller. And hit and miss, and more miss than hit. Sadly, it's not, I don't think it's a fault of, none of this is precedented, right? None of this is something they could say, well, build it like, first of all, it's analog. It's not a program. It's late 70s, so they're not building a program. It is in essence a textual version of a program without any of the proper jargon or protocols, right? It's good morning, Nutria Good Books. Thanks for joining us. It is a random is definitely the word for this. Let's see where we want to be. I think, try that. No, that's too small. Let's try that. It's about as big as it gets. 265. What do you think? Yeah, that'll do it. All right. The first appendix. See, what do we need? They said as they were putting together the books, as they were putting together all the stuff they wanted to get into the Dungeon Master's Guide. They had stuff that they wanted in the main body of the book, including all the character stuff, and of course the combat stuff, the economic stuff, details on spells, and then running campaigns, adventure, experience. The campaign itself is huge, including world building and all of that. What doesn't make the cut for this is in the appendix, the appendices. But let's face it, some of this stuff is better off as an appendix because it's just a pile of tables. It's a follow along and go through this, and this is what you'll get. So you got Appendix A, random dungeon generation, random wilderness terrain, Appendix B, random monster encounters. Good order to put those in because we want to generate a dungeon or a wilderness area before we populate it. And indeed, the monster encounters section, first section is adjustment for relative dungeon level, and then dungeon random monster encounters. Then we get into underwater, astral and ethereal, psionics, outdoor random monster encounters, which you want. With the wilderness terrain appendix, maybe even this waterborne random, airborne random, city town encounters. This is a useful one, and you know what? Adventure building can include that. So let me take a quick peek at this and see if it deserves more from us than a quick let's point at it. You know, it is pretty extensive, and I like that they break down with descriptions of all of the different encounters, right? And it goes on for quite a bit. Of course, it has one of the great illustrations of all time, Emrakul, magic missiling people left and right as he seemingly is trying to escape from a city, right? Given how extensive that is, let's give that its own day. Let's talk about that, I don't know, next week or in some future week. We'll talk about city-town encounters and that section of the random monster encounters. Appendix C will get its own. But getting back to Appendix A. So we start with these starter places, right? We've got... I keep moving around and thinking I'm out of focus. But I'm not really. I want that on a T. Yeah, Emrakul, you mean? Is that what you're talking about? On a T-shirt? If Dave was with us, I don't know if his wife is ever going to do anything with any of his artwork. Tom Wam may at some point be able to contact and maybe see if that's a thing. So, let me just read through this real quick because there's some comments to make on how it's put together. When you need help in designing a dungeon, whether it is a level in your main dungeon or a labyrinth discovered elsewhere, the following random generation system has proven itself to be useful. It's true. It must be noted that the system requires time, but it can be used directly in conjunction with actual play. That's tricky. The upper level of the dungeon in which adventures are to take place, and let's face it, let's step back a second here. Obviously, when this was written, computers weren't really a thing yet. Ubiquitously, the internet, there was only a sort of a proto-internet, if you will. Um, and even video games, weren't quite a thing, just beginning to become a thing. And I'm talking video games in terms of those that attempt to emulate role-playing games. Um, so, it would even be a few years before Pool of Radiance or any of the gold box ones that people know and love that were put out directly from TSR, right? So, when he writes this, keep it contextualized. Don't, because you read this and you say, oh, well, geez, I could just, got a random dungeon generator like we looked at just the other day here, and, it could just spit out map after map after map after map, and I can set parameters to how many rooms and how big a space it should take up on a map, and should there be caverns or just straight up dungeon type walls and rooms? Should we have any special rooms? Do we have any restrictions on the number of entrances and exits? So many of these generators have all of this stuff, and it does what this does in an instant, right? So, and there are others like Scrawl now, where you're essentially drawing it yourself to a style. Once you master that interface, uh, all of the things that you can do with this, you can do with that in moments. You could use this and roll the random stuff on these tables and then draw them on the Scrawl program, for instance, as you go. If you're familiar enough with Scrawl to not have to keep, going back and forth and looking stuff up and figuring out how to do stuff as you go. If you're familiar with that and with this, boom, you could definitely do that. And that would be cool. But let's be clear, when we're looking at this, we're looking at an artifact. Okay? But what we can glean out of this as we go through it is to see all of the elements that back in the day were considered standard enough to be randomly included on a table, to be randomly included into a dungeon. Here's something that can happen 10% of the time. Put it on this hallway table here because it's a hallway. All right. So the upper level of the dungeon in which the adventures are to take place should be completely planned out, and it is a good idea to use the outdoor encounter matrix to see what lives where. A staircase, discovered later, just might lead right into the midst of whatever it is. The stairway down to the first level of a dungeon should be situated in the approximate middle of the upper ruins or whatever you have as upper works. The first level of the dungeon is always begun with a room. That is, the stairway down leads to a room. So, you might go immediately to Table 5 and follow the procedure indicated, or use one of the following starter areas. Always begin a level in the middle of a sheet of graph paper. Okay, so we've got a couple of conceits there that are worth exploring as adventure building mainstays from back in the day, right? Always leads down stairway, down leads to a room. Always begun with a room. Well, okay. One might wonder why that is. If I'm going into a place, even if we look at something like Castle of Otranto, classic Gothic novel, certainly something that was known of by the people that began all of this, and there's a dungeon sequence in there, right? There's this whole underground sequence. There's a temple under there, a church really, in this cavernous area, and then there's this long hallway that leads off. It's and many castles had escape tunnels, right? For if the castle was going to go under, will not be caught and will go out through this escape tunnel. Sometimes if you were near water, it would lead to a cavernous room where there'd be some boats docked that you could escape on. I think we see that in a Game of Thrones episode when Brienne of Tarth, and I'm talking about the HBO series, not the books. I don't recall if that's in the books. I read them, but it's hard to remember. They conflate. Nevertheless, kind of this escape tunnel sort of thing. But the point being, so there's this long tunnel, and if it's in a land area, and then it just gets to an end and it climbs up, and maybe there's an old ruins there that you're coming up out of, or maybe there's a little bunker like you always see in movies that profess the escape hatch from the White House. You've got this long hallway and then a little, it's almost like a utility building, right? You'd mistake it for a electric company building or a water company building or something. It's that meant to be innocuous. Well, you could have the same type of thing in a situation like this. Or you could have it come up in a hollow tree that has a secret door built into it. You have anything like that. Nevertheless, always begin with a room. Well, if you're coming from that side, if you discover that secret door or that escape entrance and you find a stairway down into it's going to lead into a long hallway. So there are exceptions. It's a long way of me saying there are exceptions. So keep those in mind. Also, it says, go immediately. Table 5 follows Fruja there starter. Always begin a level in the middle of a sheet of graph paper. So, yes and no. Again, right? If you have an overall plan for how you're creating your adventure, dungeon, whatever, and you want it to be... And even if you're using the random tables for generating most of it, but making some hard choices as you go along for reasons... if you're, say, under the footprint of a city or a castle, so you have a constrained area. All right, let's say I've got this city, and let's do this. So I've got this city. It's all green. It's going to just show up in the green screen. So I've got this city, and I want to put like a sewer system style dungeon underneath it, right? Some sort of an underground, but that makes sense for a city, right? And it's cordoned off on all sides by a wall, and then just outside the wall there's other things, but we don't want to be under any of that. So we really want it to all be under the city. Well, if my entrance is going to be here in the city, I don't start that in the middle of the map. Right? I start that in this corner of the map. And then as I'm making my choices while I'm doing the randomness, if anything takes me outside of those parameters of the city, I bend it back in, or I cheat it underneath the area of the footprint of the city where I want it to be. So, keep that in mind. Death Angel Shadow, thanks for chiming in there, buddy. I don't think I have you in here yet this week, so I'm glad you were here earlier this week. Definitely. I've got you in there already. All right, and so that's said about that. Always begin in the middle of a sheet of graph paper. Well, there are exceptions, and I just mentioned one typical exception, and there are, I'm sure, others. Keep a side record of all monsters, treasures, tricks, and traps, whatever a normal dungeon matrix. Absolutely. You may want to randomly generate those with the Appendix C information, but let's also consider that as you're designing and as you see how this thing is playing out and as you know where this is going to live within your game setting, your world, you have already got some ideas about some of what might be in and around this dungeon. So without a doubt, there are going to be times while you're creating this map, you're going to want to make a little notation. This is area 23. Well, this would be great for putting a roper down here because there's a way in right from above. There's a swamp nearby. This is kind of damp, and there's a lot of muck, and there's a lot of bats or spiders or rats, which are good food supply for something like a roper, which will eat people, but it's got to eat something else on the regular, right? And if you live in a swamp, I don't know. Is it tough for a roper to deal with a crocodile or alligators? Alligators depends on the climate, right? Anywho, make some notes as you go along, and you may find that it's mostly populated by the time you're done generating the map, and you won't need to randomly generate too much of the creatures that are living within it. Discretion must prevail at all times, and here's where we get into some of what I was just talking about. For example, if you've decided that a level is to be but one sheet of paper in size, and the die roll calls for something which goes beyond an edge, amend the result by rolling until you obtain something which will fit with your predetermined limits. Common sense will serve. If a room won't fit, a smaller one must serve. And any room or chamber which is called for can be otherwise drawn to suit what you believe is its best positioning. So true. Random starting dungeon areas. Boom. Lovely. Plenty of potential exits. All of these hallways, you would think, have potential secret doors or additional doors. They definitely popped a couple of doors there. Here's a nice symmetrical one with a stairway in. Stairway in, plenty of doors, no hallways out. This one's a little funkier, a little more difficult to explain and draw. This one is an airplane. An airplane. See, look at that. Look at that. No, I don't know. It's nice, though. It's kind of cool, right? It definitely branches off in plenty of areas, but has some doors to immediately deal with. I don't know why that cross line is there, because I think those are open hallways, but that could be cleaned up. Anywho, table 1, periodic check. Continue straight, blah, blah, blah. So we start off with one of those areas or something similar. And I'll tell you what, we're moving right along. I don't want to jump into this just yet. Maybe we can set this up. I don't know if I'll be able to map as we do this. That might be too much for me to juggle at the same time. We'll see. We will see. I'll tell you what, though. We're going to set this aside. We're going to consider this done for the day as far as the Appendix A is concerned. But, yeah, now you can't unsee the airplane, right? It will be forever etched in our minds. Why didn't we see that years ago? I don't know. Any questions in the chat today regarding adventure building? Or any comments about things that you have built yourself? Boom. What do you think? Where are we at? I'm always happy to hear some additional... Where's my thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. We'll move me over. Move me toward. What's new? Is anybody working on any adventures right now? There's a little over 2 months. We've got about 78 days until Virtual Gamehole Con. I would be if I can get a minute. Yeah, right. We're all pressed for time with various things. Just don't let it get too far. If you're going to run something for Gamehole Con, it is still 78 days away. That's a long time until those 78 days are in the rear view, and then it's time to shine. Something else. Hey, let me mention this. We are just under 2 weeks until Ernie Gygax Day, September 2nd. Ernie's birthday. What's he gonna be? Is he gonna be 60 this year? 61? I think he's 3 years older than me, so that 61 might be. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with him. But a few years ago, I got to thinking about Gary Gygax Day, and I got to thinking, this ain't right. This whole, why do you have to wait until you're gone to have a day that celebrates your contributions to this hobby? You know, we're gonna at some point we're gonna have a bunch of days on the calendar and no one to celebrate them with, and I don't like that idea. So I decided, you know what? Let's take Ernie's birthday. And quite frankly, we should have a Jim Ward Day, a Timcast Day. There's any number of additional days we should probably add in. But let's start with Ernie. Let's make Ernie Gygax Day a day that will live in infamy. Let's use it as an excuse to find the time to game. It's a Wednesday this year. Quite often it falls closer to Labor Day weekend, which makes it a easy thing to say, well, you game anytime this weekend, you're gaming for Ernie Gygax Day. But when it falls on a Wednesday, that's a little trickier. So why don't we say Wednesday, and then all through the rest of that weekend all counts as running a game for Ernie Gygax Day. That gives you through Monday, because Labor Day. I mean, I'm talking U.S. here, so if you're outside the U.S., pardon my U.S.-centric assumptions. I just think in terms of, I'm not an international brain, right? It's not my fault. It's just who I am. And I apologize for it, so please accept my apology. Anywho, Mrs. Death hits 50 this Saturday. Nice. A couple more months, I'll be 58. That'll be fun. No big deal. It's been a few years since I turned 55. That was the next big deal, because when I moved up here 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, one of the brass rings on the carousel was getting to 55, so I could get a 4% discount at Piggly Wiggly on groceries. So when I first moved up here, it was like, 3 years, I gotta wait. But when I turned 55, that Tuesday after that, I was over there. And I think 90%, 95% of the time that I go grocery shopping, I do it on a Tuesday, because 4% is 4%. Never leave money on the table. That's, you save it up, put it toward a game. Just makes sense. Anywho, I want to remind everybody, of course, oops, I moved that over. Sorry about that. Remind everybody again about getting your games together. We'll talk some more on Monday about Virtual Gamehole Con and the game submissions. I'm getting some stuff in my head together too, but I'm doing that in conjunction with a plan for running something on a Tuesday for Ernie Gygax Day, Tuesday the 2nd. Or Tuesday the 1st. It's the day before, but it's a day that I traditionally run stuff when I do run stuff, And I've got some people I'm wrangling right now. I might need another player or two. Drop me a PM if you're going to be free on Tuesday the 1st and you have access to Roll20. You got an account set up already. If you have a headset, and we don't always use the video. It's not necessary. It can be helpful. I like it, but not everybody has a good webcam or ability to use that. So, as long as you have a headset and microphone that work and a good internet connection and Roll20 and are aware of first edition AD&D rules, drop me a PM. I could use an extra player for maybe two for September 1st. Let me know. But also, again, virtual game hall con submissions. Let's start getting that together. On the schedule for the rest of this week is just Saturday. GM reviews. Not sure what I'm reviewing tomorrow. I got to look at something new. I'll dig around what I have here and see if I can find something that's particularly useful for GMs. Rules retrospective on Sunday. We'll be looking at the Druid First Edition class. Weekly news and announcements. We'll talk a lot about Gamehole Con and Ernie Gygax Day and all of that stuff. Cartography and world building on Tuesday. Campaign discussion on Wednesday. GMing tips on Thursday. Then back around to building adventures next Friday. Thank you so much. If you're checking this out on Twitch, be sure you're following the channel. And if you are, chime in on the stream chat because we are definitely collecting names out of the stream chat, and that's how we know you're not a bot. We throw that onto a list, and then once a week we pull a name out of a hat and just give them a nice little gift just for being a follower of the show. No purchase necessary. And if you're catching up with this on YouTube, thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a big thumbs up on a video. And what do you guys think? Does the sound much better nowadays, or am I too loud? Am I audible but not squishy? Where's it at? Let's get some feedback on the sound before we disappear. I know we're a little over on time anyway, but sounds good? Okay. In best robot voice, I am not a robot. Okay. Let me try that again. I am not a robot. Nop, nop, nop. What was what was that from? That was like that old arcade game, Robotron? Was that Robotron where they always used to say nop, nop, nop after they said anything? Intruder alerted. No, I forget how the rest of the stuff went, but I just remember that nop, nop, nop. Anyway, there we are. We're good to go. Thank you very much. We will catch you tomorrow or sometime soon, 9:30 a.m. daily on the OK Grognard Show. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.